Good morning, guys. Just a recap from Kansas State. Wednesday we had to take a day off. Yesterday we regrouped and worked through the film and try to figure out what we can correct. It's certainly a disappointing result. I thought we had a pretty good matchup against Kansas State, but there's a lot of things we can shore up from that game. And one of the things we touched on the most is probably our defensive rotations. I thought we did a pretty good job in our traps, but our rotations on the backside were, they lacking to say the least. So that and some of our offensive stagnancy, the ball movement wasn't there, and I thought there were a lot of people trying to do too much on the offensive end when we had plenty of clock. So we're working through all these issues, and certainly the chemistry isn't coming quite nearly as fast as I'd like it to. But everybody's head and mental space is in a good spot, and everybody wants to figure out how we get this corrected. But looking forward to a good opportunity. This league is as a bear. So you looking at 4 out of 5 of the first 5 matchups in the league are ranked opponents, and Texas is as good as anybody. We'll play all year, and the reigning Big 12 tournament champions, and even when you look at their rotation, you think about that. You got Dylan DeSue coming off the bench, that was the most outstanding player in the Big 12 tournament. So, they have they have the size, they have the athleticism, they have the talent, and they're a really good basketball team. And so we're looking forward to another challenge, and hoping to see a good showing from Mountaineer Nation and continue to back us in what we're trying to do here, and we're giving everything we got, and we're going to continue to do so.
Josh, I think you addressed this a little bit on the radio show last night, but give us a recap of what Jesse's status is, how much he's able to practice, things like that.
Well, I think yesterday or Wednesday, I believe Wednesday would have been the 3 week since his surgery. So it's been 3 weeks. So we're 3 weeks plus. I think he's got another week left in the brace before they take pictures of it and determine where it's at. And at that point, he's had zero mobility with the wrist in 4 weeks. So it'll be a fluid situation as determining what the rehab is in terms of timetable from there. So originally as you looked at, I thought 4 weeks was 4 weeks to getting back to playing, but it's kind of like construction. They tell you 2 weeks, and it ends up being 4. So these situations, we got to do what's best for Jesse. So we're not going to compromise that and put him in a situation to where that could affect him long term. So we're going to make sure we do right by Jesse Edwards.
Practice. I assume he's doing conditioning stuff. Does he get any shots up? What does he do in practice?
He does a lot of work on the side, especially developing his left hand. I think he's becoming way more comfortable with his left hand, and he does a lot of mobility, a lot of conditioning. We have great people in our program between Randy Metter and Sean. So Sean does an incredible job of figuring out how to continue to work with his strength, regardless of eliminating the wrist in the equation. So Sean Brown and Randy Metter have continued to work with him diligently, and even on the side, he continues to stay locked in with what we're doing, and he's a great teammate throughout the process, and he wants to do everything he can in the meantime, even though he's saddled with the injury.
Biggest concerns with Texas?
Their size. We got to, I don't know what Shedrick's situation is going to be. It looks like, he had some back spasms in that Texas Tech game and didn't see any action against Cincinnati. But, Dylan DeSue, like I said, would probably he'd be if he's still saddled with that injury, would be, the starting five man, and he's very, very talented. But not only their size and rebounding, which is always an issue, it's defensive transition for us. They're one of the best in the country at going downhill, and so we got to figure out how to get back and get matched and shore that up.
I know winning is the ultimate, but are there some incremental things that you'd like to see from your team to get to the point where you can win?
Yeah, I mean, it's an everyday process, right? It's a we didn't have that chemistry that everybody else did, in the summer and in the normal build up to get into Big 12 play. So that is what it is. So right now we just want to continue to see our guys in the right frame of mind and continue to see guys that want to come in and be a part of the solution. And for the most part, that's the case. And so we continue to want to see growth each and every day, and that's part of where we're at right now. So if we continue to go in the right direction, there's no reason we can't be competitive each and every game and put ourselves in a position to win.
When you look at Texas's offense, is there one guy that you have to take away? Because, I mean, they've obviously got 4 or 5 guys who can score. A kind of unique situation there where it's just not one or two guys.
Mm-hmm. Asmus is the one you probably look at, and I think he's 5th all time and 3-point makes, in the history of college basketball. So, he can really fill it up and trying to figure out who you can, who you got to key on, but also who you can stun off of or dig off of or to help your teammates. So certainly that's it's one of the issues trying to guard these guys is figuring out where their weakness is, and they don't have very many.
Obviously, that's the thing. You help off of someone, and the person you're helping off of, he's averaging 12, 13 points a game.
They're talented
Yeah.
from top to bottom for sure. So it's got to be a team mentality. It's got to be a team mentality. It's got to be us versus them. Not me versus my matchup. We talked a lot about that yesterday, and I use that exact terminology with them. It's us versus them. We can't get in the mindset it's my matchup, and I'm going to guard this guy and this guy, and this is what they do. It's got to be team defense and us versus them.
Surprised at all what Central Florida did to Kansas? I mean, and you look to, obviously, Hilton Magic. It's Hilton Magic with Houston. Some of the things that are happening in the league.
Yeah, the one thing that, I told those guys, after the Kansas State game, and we can point at our offense and we can be more efficient, and there's a lot of ways we can improve. But the one thing that stuck out to me is, we gave up 81 points, and we gave up 89 points versus Houston. So in league play, we're giving up 85 points a game. And I said, Houston's a very, very good defensive team, but they have their struggles on the offensive end in the half court, and I think I spoke about that. But regardless of not even knowing the score, I told those guys, in this league, you got to hang your hat on some defense. And so consequently, they lost 57-53. They held Iowa State in Hilton to 57 points. But they came out of there with a loss. And you look at all the scores in the first 14 Big 12 games. I think I looked at the averages. It looked like the winning teams were averaging 71 and the losing teams were averaging 65. So are we scoring enough? We can certainly be more efficient on the offensive end and score more points, but the defensive end we have to shore up, and we have to shore it up quick.
So you can't outscore teams this league. You got to.
No, it can't be the mentality.
Yeah.
It can't be like we're going to give up 2 and get 3 on the other end. It's we got to be us versus them on the defensive end, and then we got to be way more efficient on the offensive.
Josh, they start Hunter and Max, those 2 small guys in the backcourt. You don't see that a whole lot. They're probably 6 feet, right? I guess how do they make that go, and how do they work around that? Because that could be a deficiency, right? But they can score so much and they move so fast, those guys too, that probably their strength.
No, and it's you put smaller guards around larger forwards. It works pretty well. They got plenty of size elsewhere. I mean, if you look at the starting three man, Dylan Mitchell, 6'8", 205. He's long, athletic, and rebounds as good as anybody in the country. So, especially from the offensive rebounding perspective, he's 2.5 offensive rebounds a game. And Ace Smith, and he's a great shooter. He's elite shooter. So, they got good guard play. They got good bigs. They're very balanced in their approach. What's that?
Almost like 2-point guards with them.
Yeah.
They're kind of shooters, but still.
Yeah, they can both handle it, and that's as a coach, you love having two guys on the floor that can handle it.
Coach, Jesse, for a second for me. So when he does come back, how much does that change what you do? And is there going to have to be another learning curve as you insert him with guys who haven't played with him?
I think we've tabled a lot of things that a lot of the actions that we had to throw it close. We'll certainly have a reorientation with some of those actions to get those back into the fold that make us more of a balanced attack on the offensive end. So, you look at almost anybody you play, regardless of whether they have a low post threat, they're trying to dump it in close early to establish that. And that'll be, with Jesse back in the fold, we can certainly start to play inside out, and it's going to relieve a lot of pressure that the teams are putting, on whether it be, Kerr and Raekwon and Noah and some of our guard play.
Does that even help with Cook now that he can be a true 4, a weak side defender type thing? How much will
I mean, it'll help Cook. It'll help Pat. I mean, those guys are giving everything they got, in the situation we're in, trying to, play out of position. And they are playing out of position, more so with Cook than Pat. Pat's got really good size and can kind of hold his own down low, but offensively, he's given us a lot and taken that role on and accepted it, and even gave us some hard baskets down low. But that's really not his game, and he's trying to develop that as quick as possible to help his team. So, that will relieve some pressure, but like I told those guys, if you're going to make money in the game of basketball, the more you can show how versatile you are and that you can take on about any role you're asked to take on, that's going to be beneficial for you in your career.
You've obviously been tied or have ties to this conference even before you came to Morgantown. With Texas leaving, any thoughts there? Have you had, or are there any thoughts at this point about Texas, Oklahoma leaving, and then obviously the after effects of that with the new teams coming in and is realignment? I mean, it's a football thing, obviously, but it affects basketball as well. Yeah,
it's strange. I mean, to me, even it's still strange to me seeing Nebraska in the Big Ten. It's still strange to me that Colorado was in the Pac-12. Now they're it's full circle of coming back. I mean, I grew up in this league watching the Big Eight, and a very, very condensed geographical conference. And so I understand why they do it, and it's big business. But to see Texas leaving, to see Oklahoma leaving, especially Oklahoma being they were one of the original Big Eight, and so it's the new age, and it just shows how old I'm getting, I guess, and you see you grow up and you remember. I remember like watching having a notebook in grade school with the original Big Eight schools and how much ownership you had and growing up in the Midwest and understanding this is the conference that I associated myself with.
We've had success against Texas. What have they been able to do?
They got to get back in transition for sure. That's certainly one of their strengths is going downhill in offensive transition. So, if you have the ability to, rebound the basketball on the offensive end, that can really slow down transition. We're not a great offensive rebounding team based on our makeup by any means, but we can certainly control, our offensive production and I think the one thing and the live ball turnovers in the Kansas State game and a lot of the forced one-on-one action when there was so much help that forced us into bad shots, we can control that, and that's something that we've keyed on pretty heavily in the last couple of days.
So transition offense is one of the best things they do?
Yeah, they're one of the best in the country, and probably, if you looked at numbers, probably top 25 in the country, just going downhill on offensive transition. So, and then they rebound the basketball really well.
They push it any chance they get?
Yeah.
You talked about defense being a liability at present. And when you think defense, you think block shots, stealing balls, etc. You don't really have those guys, like they used to. What does the heart of your defense have to be?
It's got to be team defense. You need as much ball pressure as possible in about anything you do, but that ball pressure has got to understand that you got help behind you, especially with the roster that we have right now. We have to understand, it's just not, you're not on an island out there. You got guys behind you, in the right position to stunt and dig and do whatever it needs to be done to shore up some of that. And like I said, it's got to be us versus them on the defensive approach. So we got to understand that we're all connected, and sometimes you see a lot of disconnect on the defensive end, and that's what we've worked hard on the last couple of days to preach and clean up and teach. And I thought I've been pleased with the 2 days of prep that we've had thus far.
With the offensive spurt, getting in the starting lineup, do you see any confidence boost in the facility or off the court? How is he handling that personally?
Yeah, you can see the confidence for sure. He carries himself differently, and that's they're all young men. They're all going through a lot. Everybody is, and it's a lot of pressure on kids. So when they are playing better, you can tell that they carry themselves differently, and they carry themselves with a lot more moxie and confidence, and that's starting to help his mentality each and every day in practice, and hopefully it just continues to snowball in that direction.
Josh, going back to the 2-point guard thing, you guys have something kind of similar, maybe a little bit taller than those two, but you could have gone in different directions when you had your roster and started whomever. Any reason you were inspired to go with Kerr and Noah as starters?
Say that again.
Is there any reason you picked Noah and Kerr as starters?
It's all fluid, It's we continue to look at lineup combinations and nothing's decided even for Saturday as our starting lineup. We continue to look at that, and I don't like go into practice thinking this is what we're going to do for sure. We kind of 2 days out, you experiment a little bit and figure out what rotations you think work the best, and then you try to settle in, the day before the game. We're not exactly,